Now the news in detail. The presidency has denied reports making the rounds that the Minister of Finance and the Coordinating Minister of Economy, Waliedo, and the federal government negotiating team have proposed 105,000 naira as the new minimum wage. After organized labor declared nationwide strike, the federal government met with the union leaders and struck a deal. The negotiating team had subsequently briefed President Bola Ahmed TINUBU, who directed the finance minister to present a new minimum wage template within 48 hours. Onanuga and his team met the president on Thursday but did not disclose the outcome of the meeting. However, there were reports that Edun's team proposed 105,000 naira as the new minimum wage. But responding to this, Bayo Nanuga, the special advisor to President on Media and Strategy, described the reports as false. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been called upon by the Senate to thoroughly review and evaluate Nigeria's security strategy to guarantee the safety of citizens and residents of the country. The call followed a motion moved by Senator Nasiru Daura, considering not on the urgent need to review the security approach in curbing banditry attacks in northwest Nigeria. Trust TV Senate correspondent Sagir Ibrahim brings us this and more from the Thursday's plenary.
In a bid to guarantee the safety of lives and properties in his region, Senator Nasiru Daura in his presentation urged the federal government to consider the deployment of additional security personnel to the identified hotspots. The motion enjoyed popular support from his colleagues.
We further urge the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to direct the establishment of a task force to evaluate the effectiveness and implications of negotiating with bandits, conducting a thorough analysis of the short-term gains versus the long-term consequences of such actions.
Most of our farmlands in these areas are no-go areas to our farmers. Once you step out of the comfort or the confines of your village, hamlet or town, you hardly come back without being kidnapped. So it's important that we intensify every effort, in particular the security forces, to engender security and safety in these areas.
The leadership of this Senate should take a responsibility of liaising and interfacing with the executive towards finding a lasting solution to the problem of insecurity in this country. We should be talking about economic development like other countries. We are busy talking about insecurity.
Despite the support, other lawmakers feel an ultimatum be given to heads of security agencies to deal with the menace once and for all.
What we need to do is to match this with timelines. Give them what they want, but give them timelines to achieve it. Once people know that they're going to lose their positions, they will act. You ask people to go and do their assignment, they don't succeed in them, they come back and they continue to do the same thing all the time. It is disturbing that if we don't take care, sir, I see a situation whereby one of these states mentioned could be taken over by bandits in the government house.
It's not something that we should be just treating with levity. It is critical and urgent. There should be goals for the security agencies. There should be consequences. There should be timelines.
I want to assure you that going by what Mr. President is doing and his team and the security agencies, very soon, by grace of God, it will become a thing of the past.
Still, on Thursday's plenary, the Senate also urged the federal government to draw up stringent regulations to streamline mining activities in Nigeria to align with international best practices and ensure safety of operations. This was sequel to a motion sponsored by Senator Sani Musa, Niger East, on the urgent need to address the incident of a landslide that buried over 30 informal miners alive in a gold mining site in Galadim and Kogi Ward, Shiroro local government area of the state.
Nigeria is desirous of diversifying its economy. The mining subsector is lucrative enough and should be adequately exploited for the socio-economic development of this country. As such, the appropriate authorities should as a matter of urgency and necessity, initiate thorough investigation into the circumstances surrounding the incident so as to identify any existing lapses as they relate to safety regulations and enforcement in the sector.
So there is need for a legislative framework, especially against the backdrop of the fact that we are now preaching the gospel of diversification of the economy away from oil to agriculture and then the mining sector in order for us to earn the much needed revenue.
The Deputy Senate President, Barrow Jibrin, who presided over plenary in his remarks, said government needs to strengthen regulations in the solid minerals sector.
We need to be open doing not only the Ministry of Solid Minerals, but all of us, including the Senate, try to see how we can assist the government in making sure that the exploitation of our solid mineral resources is done in line with international best practice, and whatever that is supposed to go to the coffers of government goes into the coffers of government.
Plenary was adjourned to Tuesday, June 11th to continue deliberations. Sagir Ibrahim, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Still at the National Assembly, the House of Representatives on Thursday passed the 2024 supplementary bill of 98.5 billion naira for the Federal Capital Territory Administration. This and more stories from Thursday's plenary is here presented.
Chairman of the House Committee on Federal Capital Territory, Aliyu Mukhtar Batara, presented the report of the committee to the House for consideration.
That this House do consider the report of Committee on Federal Capital Territory, the bill for an act to authorize the issue of the Federal Capital Territory Administration statutory revenue funds for the Federal Capital Territory Administration account, the sum of 98,500 million only for the capital projects for the service of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, for the financial year ending 31st December 2024.
500 million only for capital project for the service of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, for the financial ending 31st December 2024, and approve clauses 1 to 5, which is the recommendation 1 to 5, the schedule, explanatory memorandum, and the long title of the bill.
Also, during Thursday's proceedings, members of the Green Chamber urged President Bola TINUBU to immediately set up a judicial panel of inquiry on prison attacks in the country and ensure the such assaults on the entire security apparatus of Nigeria do not reoccur.
Officials are not properly trained to be infantry and confrontational, making it very difficult to repel such attacks, hence the need to put in place upgraded prison facilities with better security armed guards, walls, perimeter fences, and solid gates, and the installation of modern equipment to easily detect security breaches and curb further attacks.
Lawmakers also urged the Federal Ministry of Education, in conjunction with state ministries of education, to conduct a comprehensive review of the curriculum across primary, secondary, and tertiary institutions to be in tandem with evolving global market demands.
Nigeria's traditional curriculum for primary and secondary schools faces challenges compared to advanced nations. While it equips students with knowledge, it prioritizes rote learning over practical skills like critical thinking and problem solving, which are very crucial in current labor markets. The curriculum might have a stronger focus on national subjects, potentially limiting exposure to global perspectives necessary to navigate the intercontinental world.
In another development, the House urged the federal government to adequately fund the education sector, calling on the Federal Ministry of Education to review and apply stringent policies to the standards of education in Nigeria at all levels.
The Nigerian educational sector is facing a continuous decline in standards due to poor funding, inadequate facilities, insufficient teachers, corruption, insecurity, poor supervision, poor policy implementation, and poor attitudes towards schoolwork, while the rise of social media has exposed young children to unsupervised orientation, leading to misplaced priorities and neglect of schoolwork.
Still on Thursday's sitting, the House of Representatives resolved to investigate the fraudulent allocation of land documents in Abuja before the appointment of Nyesom Wike as Minister of Federal Capital Territory, FCT.
That some of the lands affected were subject to litigation which were yet to be dissolved, but disturbed that some of the beneficiaries of these alleged fraudulent allocations are already using them to forcefully grab, dislodge, and equally inflict harm on landowners, which is a recipe for further conflict.
Honorable Leke Abijide, in his own motion, says there is a need for the Nigerian Communication Commission (NCC) to investigate the operations of telecommunications companies operating in the country over poor service delivery.
Knows that numerous internet providers, ISPs, have managed to evade accountability for their widespread inefficiency, feeble and inferior service delivery, while consumers are compelled to persistently pay for inadequate services due to the apparent absence of regulations governing the pricing and service provision, thereby enable them to exploit Nigerians.
Plenary resumes on Tuesday, June 11th.
Council members of the minority shareholders community have called for a probe of the management and directors of the failed Heritage Bank. The call was made on Thursday following the revocation of license of the bank by the Central Bank of Nigeria. The National Coordinator of Progressive Shareholders Association, Boniface Okezie, said probing the bank managers would boost confidence in the sector. According to Okezie, in other crimes, the managers and directors would be held accountable. He added that the decision of the regulator was in line with its legal mandate, but expressed concerns as at the time it took to arrive at the decision. The Apex Bank had appointed the Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation as the liquidator of Heritage Bank in line with Section 12 of Section 2 of the BOIA 2020 Act. Now, acute food insecurity is projected to worsen in magnitude and severity across 18 hunger hotspots, including Nigeria. This was contained in a recent report from the United Nations. Nigeria, which is the most populous black nation in Africa, is already dealing with food shortages and high inflation amidst a remarkable economic slowdown. Abdullahi Ahmed tells us more.
Another warning emerges from global development partners, highlighting the imminent threat of famine across 18 hotspots, which could spark a humanitarian crisis. The report emphasized the immediate need for assistance to prevent famine in Gaza and Sudan, as well as the worsening hunger crisis in Haiti, Mali, and South Sudan. The report says economic challenges such as double-digit inflation and stagnation of local production had become major drivers of the crisis beyond recurrent conflicts in the region. The report also notes that Nigeria would be among the worst affected. Experts in Nigeria's agriculture sector say the gaps that currently exist makes the projections a wake-up call for government to step up and do the needful in order to avert the worst-case scenario.
Well, to me, these kinds of reports are rather alarming, but they are expected. I think we've seen the trajectory of nations' economies over the last 2 years, since COVID really. Nobody has been able to fully recover from the shocks of COVID. But, if you see problems like this happening, it's for you to plan better, as opposed to always waiting for it to hit you in the face. As of last year, we already knew that food inflation was at a rapid pace. As at last count, inflation is now over 32%, where our target inflation is meant to be 12%. This is happening in all other countries around the globe. And unfortunately for Nigeria, with our devaluation of our currency, we also don't have the purchasing power to compete on the global scale for limited food supplies. So we are in a conundrum.
Government inconsistencies in policy direction have also been identified as major factors responsible for the underdevelopment of Nigeria's agri sector, which has the potential and capacity to guarantee food security and self-sufficiency.
The immediate past administration, to some extent, has tried in the repositioning agriculture in Nigeria. But honestly speaking, the present administration has not made any deliberate effort for now. And if care is not taken, worse will happen.
Despite the bleak projections, some believe there is still a window of opportunity to turn things around as millions of Nigerians continue to face untold hardship occasioned by the recent removal of fuel subsidy and a steep economic downturn.
Nigeria right now is in need of a Marshall Plan for food security. We need a dedicated plan of action that will increase the production of food within the country. And for me, it's not just the increase of production of food, it's twofold. We actually need to cultivate more land. We cannot rely on the previously cultivated land. When our farmers started cultivating land 40 years ago, we were only about 40 million people. And now we're 220 million people still relying on the same farmers to produce the kind of food we need. So we not only need to cultivate more land, we actually now need to increase the productivity of the farmers that are already cultivating land. This has to be a real big Marshall Plan because Nigeria's population is still growing. And if your population is still growing, you need to be able to plan ahead. Investment is spending today to reap tomorrow. You cannot sit down right now and say that you're going to be doing short-term things that would come. Yes, in the interim, I'm hearing proposals that they want to consider food imports. Yes, that may guide us for the next 6 months. But then the dry season will come again and the food inflation will hit. We need a serious Marshall Plan.
Today, a bag of maize at local market, 100 kg, costs more than 80,000 naira. This is a big problem to Nigeria and the neighboring countries. And now we are in the planting season, meaning that we will not harvest maize again in the next 3-4 months. Meaning that if the same pattern has followed, then in the next 3 months, 4 months, a bag of fertilizer will cost, a bag of maize and then will cost 100,000. And the Nigerian Labour Congress and the federal government is dragging on 50,000, 60,000 minimum wage.
As the new farming season gets underway, insecurity, high cost of farm implements remains key issues begging for solutions, with many farmers, especially in northern Nigeria, unsure about their investments this year. If the recent warning by the United Nations is anything to go by, a remarkably difficult time lies ahead. Abdullahi Ahmed, Trust TV News, Abuja.
And now to issues of water scarcity. Communities in Jos, the Plateau State capital, have expressed worry over the persistent water scarcity in their areas. A cross-section of the residents said it was rather unfortunate that even those living within the city of Jos and environs also suffer access to potable water. A resident of Rukuba Road in Jos North Local Government Area, Amos Gotep, who was among those who lamented the situation, said that every morning he had to walk about 2 kilometers to get water from a neighboring Rock Haven community. And according to him, he and other members of his family do not have access to fresh water, and using the contaminated one they have will only adversely affect their health. Prices of sacrificial remain high even with their influx from neighboring Niger Republic. Just days before this year's Eid al-Kabir celebration, Katsina is a major hub for the animal business, especially during the Eid celebrations, largely due to its proximity to Niger Republic, where most of the animals are sourced. However, prices have increased due to factors such as exchange rate, extortion by border officials, and the high cost of animal feed, among others. Abdullahi Yamadi tells us more.
In Katsina and other local markets such as Jibia, Dankama, Keita, and Meadua border markets, the prices of animals have reportedly tripled compared to previous years. For instance, a ram that cost 70 to 75,000 naira a year or 2 years ago now commands between 300 to 400,000 naira this year, with prices expected to keep rising until at least a day before Salah, according to many stakeholders. Currently, the price of sacrificial animals in Katsina State ranges from 70,000 naira to 500,000 naira, depending on the size of the animal. Prices are no longer comparable to previous years because they have tripled. I can tell you, very few people are patronizing us this year. The price of animals' feed has tripled. Exchange rate between Naira and Niger currency has tripled. Naira has been devalued. And when you take animals from Niger into Nigeria, you have to settle officials at every point. These corrupt practices are not healthy.
The price of animal of this season is very, very much higher. Can't even compare from last 2 years back to now because of the situation that we are facing now. Everything is high. As you can see all this ram now, I have almost 5 ram that I bring since day before yesterday. But nobody come and even ask for their price.
I came to Baram for the forthcoming Salah festival, but I doubt if I can because the price is high. Now I have to abandon the idea of buying. Thousands of prospective buyers are going home disappointed because they cannot afford to buy one. Though very few prospective buyers were seen trying to purchase animals, possibly due to the high cost, many admitted that the animals are far beyond their purchasing power, prioritizing food instead. However, at one of the local markets, Trust TV News spotted an expatriate who came to buy animals for Salah. He opined that animals are cheaper in Katsina compared to Abuja, Kaduna, Kano, and other parts of Nigeria.
I've come to buy the car because this place is a market. Where is strong?
This one?
Yeah. Anyone. Want to buy plenty.
Okay.
For the Sarah, for celebrating the Sarah.
Okay.
This is Katsina. It's very good. Price is very good.
Okay.
They're very cheap.
Very cheap.
Yeah. In Abuja or any state, it's very expensive.
But in Katsina?
Katsina is good. It's cheap.
Observers say, though animals are in abundant supplies, but inflation and other factors make it unaffordable and beyond the reach of ordinary Nigerians. Abdullahi Izumayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
And now, away from Nigeria, around 181 million children worldwide under the age of 5, or 1 in 4, are experiencing severe child food poverty, according to a new report by the United Nations Children's Organization, UNICEF. And 65% of them live in just 20 countries, of which about 59 million are in sub-Saharan Africa. It warns that millions of children under the age of 5 are unable to access and consume a nutritious and diverse diet to sustain optimal growth and development in early childhood and beyond. Children who consume at most 2 of 8 defined food groups are considered to be in severe child food poverty. The report warns that the effects of growing inequities, conflict and climate crisis have pushed food prices and the cost of living to record high levels. And in sports, the Super Eagles dropped from 3rd to 4th in Group C of the 2026 World Cup qualifiers without kicking a ball after Benin Republic's 1-0 win over Rwanda in their 3rd game of the group on Thursday. Led by former Super Eagles coach Garnet Rohr, Benin leapfrogged Nigeria and South Africa and moved to 2nd place in the group with 4 points, same as leaders Rwanda, after a first half goal by Dodo Doku secured the win at the Stade Felix Stadium, their adopted home ground in Ivory Coast. Rwanda's failure to get something out of the game is, however, a blessing in disguise for the Eagles, who must beat South Africa in Uyo on Friday to take full advantage of the result. A win for Nigeria against Bafana Bafana would take them to the top of the table with 5 points, 1 point ahead of Rwanda, who have been at the top with 4 points since beating South Africa in the second game in the tournament. And that brings us to the end of the news update at this hour. For more, follow us across all of our social media platforms. I am Martia Uber. On behalf of the news crew, I'd like to say thank you for watching and please stay tuned.